Hey Turnaround Leader, this is Otis with OtisClayton.com coming to you today to talk about another burning question that one of my colleagues posed to me. So it's almost time for a break and the assessments are picking up. So here's the question that they asked me. How do I give support to math teachers when I'm not a content specialist? This is a question that usually gives teachers and school leaders pause because it's so easy to say I'm not a math person and people will give you an out. But I can't say, well, I'm not a literacy person, I don't like to read. People will look at you like you're a fool. But however, we let people off the hook by saying, hey, I'm not a math person, and we shun away. And therefore we start to have diminished student achievement in those areas of math for students. So today I want to just give you a quick overview of some pointers of some things that you should understand when you are giving support to math teachers. And just let me say this, you don't have to be a content expert in order to give support, but what you do have to have is a strong focus on pedagogy and understanding the standards. And so the mathematical standards have three areas. So there's focus, coherence, and rigor. And with focus, we're just going deep on a few things. So the thing of teachers, math teachers saying, hey, I want to go over chapters 1 through 25 and we have only so much time to do it. That's not the case with the standards. The standards are focused on just a few things. And so let me say this about the standards. The standards are allowing students to get deeply integrated into things that they need to be successful, not only on assessments, but as they matriculate to college and career readiness. As we help them with college and career readiness, we must pay close attention to the vocabulary that is located within the standards because it helps us identify what students should know and be able to do. In addition to this, the math standards focus on 6 key areas. And those 6 key areas are functions, algebra, modeling, numbers and quantity, what are the other two? Statistics and geometry. So those are the 6 areas that you can focus on. So as you go into the classroom, that's where you should see the focus of math occurring every day. Now the second aspect or the second component to the standards is coherence. So coherence is about these mathematical concepts spanning across grade levels as well as within grade levels. And this is important because this is how we activate prior knowledge. You can use those standards to help students build upon what they have learned the year before. This is very critical in turnaround schools because this is the key to getting the growth for students in your care from year to year. You have to build and create a solid foundation of math knowledge. Now the third component of standards that you can go in to observe is rigor. And I've been to conferences and people have talked about rigor without really giving an explanation of what it is. They just move their hands real fast and say rigor, 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 rigor. And I was like, okay, so what is that about? So that's not rigor, is moving fast. And sometimes that's what people will lead with. You know, rigor means moving fast and making sure it's hard for kids. That's not the case. So rigor is about implementing procedural skill and fluency, ensuring that students apply what they're learning and also have a conceptual understanding. So the greatest part of this would be the conceptual understanding of what's going on. So the procedural skill and fluency part of rigor is understanding the basics, you know, math, understanding mnemonics. So that whole concept of please excuse my dear Aunt Sally and FOIL. But as you move on to applying these things, using your conceptual understanding, having that background knowledge is where you want to get to with conceptual understanding. But moving past FOIL and using mathematical concepts or mathematical practices of modeling to show how you can use the box method to solve binomials or things like that. The students can understand ratios and percentages and place value and how those things are important when you solve problems. So the conceptual understanding is sometimes what we gloss over when we start to get students to understand math at a deeper level. But it's incumbent upon us as educators to model what it is that we expect to see in the classroom. And that's simply by showing the students and allowing them to do the work. In this video, I wanted to talk about just some things that you can look for. So I'll do a quick recap. So how do I support math teachers when I'm not a content specialist? And so there are two things. You need to know the standards and the mathematical practices. And because the video is getting a little long, I'll just link those mathematical practices in the description. So there are three parts to the standard: focus, coherence, and rigor. So as I close this lesson, I want you to remember this. All aspects of rigor do not have to be in place. So you don't have to see procedural skill and fluency, conceptual understanding, and application every day. However, those mathematical practices that you see in the description below should be in place. And so as I close, it is important that school leaders work with teachers with their instructional planning to ensure that the standards have standard-based objectives that are helping students to move forward, that you are seeing those mathematical practices take place, and that you're giving feedback to teachers as you go to their classrooms, talking about the things that are aligned to the standards. And the standards are just what students are expected to know and be able to do. All right, guys, thank you so much. I know math is a challenging subject and people get afraid of it, but you may not be the content expert, but you know the pedagogy. You know what kids should be doing in classroom. Just read the standards and do what they're asking you to do. All right, guys, have a great day. I am Otis with OtisClayton.com.